Well, South Africa finally has an ambassador in Washington, and that is Rolf Meyer, former negotiator. Well, we have Piet Krookamp, political analyst from the Northwest University, in the studio. Piet, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So, what do you think of the choice of Rolf Meyer?
I think it's probably the best decision that could have been made. In the United States, for instance, people will often say that the founding fathers of our Constitution has meant this or had intended this. And in all fairness and honesty, Rolf Meyer, Cyril Ramaphosa, together with the Constitutional Assembly, must be considered to be the founding fathers of our Constitution. So I have no doubt that he has the history and the standing for a diplomatic position such as this. The other thing is he's been involved in Ireland, in mediating conflict, the DRC, Sri Lanka, and various parts of the world in South America as well. So he's experienced in mediating conflict, exchange of complicated ideas, getting people together to talk to each other. He's been there and done that. Historically, one would think that wasn't really necessary for a diplomat from South Africa going to America. But given Donald Trump and his sometimes erratic behavior and the complications of our relationship with America, we don't have a choice. We have to look for a different person. And ironically, we first of all have to look for somebody that never said anything critical about Donald Trump. And that's the nature of Rolf Meyer. The way that he expressed himself, his emphasis on the battle of ideas, the exchange of ideas, and consensus seeking, and need for compromises. That's the reason why he is very careful when he expresses himself. And I think he's the perfect candidate in many, many ways to negotiate the rather uneasy relationship between South Africa and America.
Well, can we just go back a little bit with the relationship between Ramaphosa and him? They were the two guys called the back channel during the negotiations for the constitution in South Africa. So their relationship is quite long. I think eventually they started even fishing together or something like that. So do you think that's what made Ramaphosa decide, this is a man I can trust with this relationship that has gone so sour?
I think more recently, Rolf's involvement with the national dialogue in South Africa, I think that somehow brought them back together again. But if you think about it, back to 1994, that period between 1994 and 1996, nobody in South Africa, there were no Democrats in South Africa. The National Party and white South Africans only voted for a particular regime, a white apartheid regime. That was the reach and the reins of our democracy. And if you were black South African, there was no vote. You never had a vote. The ANC itself has its roots in a type of authoritarianism, a paramilitary authoritarianism, which means they weren't Democrats either. And somehow, this relationship between a unionist and a former apartheid minister managed to convince most South Africans, and certainly the ANC, to settle for a liberal democratic state. If you told any of us in the 1980s that the ANC will eventually settle for a liberal democratic political regime, we were said, but it's not possible. That is not part of their history. That's not how they portray themselves. That's not who their friends are. They had dictatorships, Russians, Cubans, Libyans. They had some violent states supporting them, being their best friends. And still, they were willing to conform to a liberal democratic system. And still, white South Africans, through the National Party and through the guidance of somebody like Rolf Meyer, were willing to settle for a liberal democratic state. Look, you can't do better than that. And that, I think, is the legacy, to some extent, of Ramaphosa, but certainly of Rolf Meyer. You have to give it to him. He negotiated very, very difficult circumstances, something that nobody at first thought is vaguely possible. And if you just apply that acumen and that experience to the very, very difficult position that he will walk into in Washington, he'll be very successful. He will be very, very, very successful. I think we can trust him with this.
Well, South Africa accepted the credentials of Leo Bozell II, and despite some wrinkle, it seems to be quite smooth waters at the moment. He's being very friendly, and he's refrained from making the remarks that he did earlier. So do you think Mr. Meyer would be accepted in Washington?
Well, I know that Rolf, on the invitation of Bozell, visited the American embassy. And I've spoken to Rolf afterwards. And he said that he found Bozell to be somebody that can change his mind. And you will have noticed, most South African observers have noticed, that Bozell has indeed changed his mind. Some of the things he said now, is completely different from what he said in the American Senate with his hearing to approve his ambassadorship in South Africa. He's a completely different person almost from then. And it could be that he has spoken to a few people like Rolf, who actually changed his mind, who told him that the white genocide narrative it's not helpful in understanding South Africa. And that, yes, we have complications with the principles of black economic empowerment, but it is something that we talk about in South Africa and that has to be resolved among South Africans. It's not helpful if Donald Trump make all sorts of, and Elon Musk for that matter, makes all sorts of expressions about it, which can only originate in a degree of ignorance and perhaps not even good intentions. It's not helping South Africa. And I think that voice of reason, that pragmatism that is typical of Rolf Meyer, I think it had an impact on the way that Bozell thinks about South Africa, and hopefully eventually change the minds of Washington and find the presence of Rolf Meyer to be conducive to a new understanding of South Africa's complications and problems and the trouble that we had with and still have with the ANC that is not managing South Africa in the best interest of all South Africans. We all know that. We all know how corrupt the system and how captured the system is. But if that is the only thing that defines South Africa, then it's not possible to have a diplomatic relationship, a workable diplomatic relationship with America. We have to think about it in more complicated terms. And I think that's what Rolf Meyer will take to America and Washington.
Can we look at this whole thing of Afrikaner genocide, which has been, there was repeated claims about that among the right in the US, which has been refuted by so many South Africans, but it still pops up. So do you think he would address this issue of white Afrikaner genocide?
There was a recent survey, and I have problems with the scientific method that was being used, but that survey showed that not far from 50% of South Africans, white Afrikaans South Africans, apparently believe that there is a white genocide in South Africa and that they are specifically targeted for that. You have to ask yourself the question, where does the narrative come from? Surely Donald Trump has spread the rumor as well, but some voices in South Africa operationalize the complexities of a genocide without using the word. I have no doubt that what AfriForum and Solidarity says, they don't use the word genocide. They themselves says we don't use the word genocide. But the way that they explain being Afrikaans and being an Afrikaner in South Africa, to many people's ears sounds like a genocide. So they have to take responsibility for the way that they explain things, the way that they victimize the most dominant ethnic identity on the African continent. It's only in America, Israel, and in South Africa where the most dominant socioeconomic political culture explain and understand themselves as victims. Surely there must be questions, there are questions to be asked. And if you speak to Kalikil, for instance, and you ask him, so is there a white genocide in South Africa? Then his answer is, no, we never said we don't use the word white genocide. We never said there's a genocide. He must say, no, there is no genocide. And I maybe he said it, I haven't heard it. But that narrative that they use to explain how black South Africans and the ANC is deliberately targeting Afrikaners, from farm murders to affirmative action to black economic empowerment policies which marginalize white South Africans. That sounds to many people like a genocide, a white genocide in South Africa. And that unfortunately is our problem. There are people that can make political hay. They capitalize on the fact that we have low economic growth, massive high unemployment, 70% of our schools are dysfunctional. Outside the Western Cape, the roads are in a dilapidated condition. In Johannesburg, services are completely deteriorating and collapsing in parts of the city, mostly in black parts, poorer parts where it is collapsing. They make political capital out of that. And it's ironic that white people feel to be the victim of something that hurts black people more. But that's exactly where we are now.
So apart from the cultural wars, where the face of Rolf Meyer, would be good, when it eventually comes to tariffs or negotiations for AGOA, do you think he's the right person?
Look, I don't know. I don't think the ambassador will play much of a role in the negotiation of tariffs. I think that's the Department of Trade and Industry. And over and above that, the tariff question has settled by and large due to the court decision in America that the president doesn't have the authority to charge tariffs willy-nilly. It seems like that debate is quieted down. We have some tariffs in South Africa. Some goods and services are going to America without tariffs. That's a new trade regime. Canada has settled for it. We have settled for it. Europe has settled for it. That's where we are now. And I don't think, it doesn't seem like Donald Trump, even though he threatened, that there will be just new ways and means to impose tariffs on other countries in the world. It seems like they have walked away for now from that question. They're busy trying to settle the problems with Iran. So I think we now know what we're in for. We are busy looking for new markets. China has announced that they have a tariff-free market for African goods and services, which they didn't have in the past. In fact, they had sometimes higher tariffs than Americans. So it looks like the thing is settling now. There will always be people that will be damaged and harmed by the eventual this impasse that has evolved here. But we will adapt. We will adapt, South Africans, especially agriculture, which was always our fear that they will be harmed most. It's perhaps the most. It is the one industry that can adapt to change more than any other in South Africa. And you see it in the way that they access new markets, that they export, that they develop supply and value chains. And by and large, ironically, most people will have to admit it, it is because they escaped black economic empowerment. They managed to control their own value and supply chains. And even though we all understand that black economic empowerment has a moral justification, it has to happen, but they've escaped the ANC's way of enriching a small group of people, a small group of cadres at the expense of everybody else. Somehow, I don't know why the ANC is so hesitant and reluctant to interfere too much in the agricultural industry, but it's to our advantage and to our benefit, because once they interfere, they are destructive and they destroy as opposed to build. I'm not saying it happens in all spheres of the economy. There are some areas that are better managed, but you can't trust them to do the right thing. And I think agriculture has escaped that. And that was one of our bigger fears. The vehicle industry will probably never recover from the tariffs, but we have a much bigger problem there, and that is the cheap Chinese imports into the market, which you cannot manufacture, you cannot build and compete with a subsidized product such as the vehicles that come in from China. So unless our government start protecting our local industry, which ironically the local industry said, don't charge tariffs on Chinese products. I'm not sure what the logic there is, but I find that conversation rather interesting. But those are our problems. And Rolf will, it won't impact the way he sees things and handle things in America. It's separate. That's being dealt with somewhere else.
So what could emerge as stumbling blocks for him? Perhaps South Africa's relationship with Iran?
Yeah, of course, there will be very difficult questions asked to him, but I don't think it seems unlikely that they will reject his position in Washington. because of that. They might do something typical of Trump. Never really accept his credentials or something like that, and he just exists there somewhere as the ambassador in America. That's the way they are. That's how nasty Donald Trump can be, and even Marco Rubio, because he dances to the tune to the tune of his authoritarian leader. He's erratic and growingly rather unpredictable president. So it's possible that they will do certain things, but I think we will probably have to live past it. We will do what Americans do. They go somewhere, and if it doesn't work, they just leave quietly, as if they've never been there, and they claim victory. Well, Ruth will go to America in a few years' time, leave quietly and claim victory, I think. And rightfully so.
Fikram, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.